think the people in Taiwan all know we are fighting against the virus, not the people. That's very important. So I think the first two speakers in the first section already said the people in Taiwan trust the government. Okay, and the slide that show the commander-in-chief for the Central Epidemic Command Center. Actually, the support rate for him is 80%. So that means the people in Taiwan for this COVID-19 spreading, they fight this virus, but not fight for people. Thank you.
Okay, one next quick comment from the audience.
In relation to the last point you made, it's true that the policy of sharing those information enjoy a very popular support. And I'm personally in favor of using that type of information for public health, particularly this disease prevention. However, from this experience, if there's a rule, is the law that needs to be amended or needs to be written into the new law or whatever, I think that's something that should be considered in the future.
Thank you for the comment. Due to time restrictions, we would have to end this session for now and enter the next session. Before we do so, I would like to make a formal correction about something I might have said in the introduction. The number of confirmed cases in Taiwan as of today is 44, with 1 confirmed death. We will now enter into our next session panel, having covered the grounds of how healthcare responders is responding to this outbreak. We will now turn our focus onto school campuses, and we would like to invite Dr. Shao-Yi Chen and Dr. Ming-Tsang again, and also Dr. Yuh-Jyh, and joining us in discussion campus strategies and guidelines for outbreak response. We will start with Dr. Chen. Dr. Chen, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Shao-Yi Cheng from National Taiwan University. I myself is a family doctor, also director of the health center at National Taiwan University. Can you see my PowerPoints?
Dr. Chen?
Yes, can you see my PowerPoints?
Not yet.
You would like to share from your laptop?
Okay.
So that you can
use my first? Okay, great. Can you see that now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, great.
Great. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Today, I'd like to talk the strategies to cope with COVID-19 on campus. First of all, we have to admit that this is a rather complex problem, especially in the campus, because it's an abrupt pandemic outbreak worldwide. And at NTU, National Taiwan University, we have a large body of international and Chinese students. We have more than 1,000 international students coming worldwide, and almost 1,000 Chinese students from mainland China and Hong Kong and Macau. And another thing that goes one step further to a complex problem is that it occurred during the Lunar New Year with heavy transportation among mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Therefore, it really poses a great challenge. this is how the school manages a crisis. On January 29, the first meeting was held by NTU Office of Student Affairs on Chinese students management, because already there are some Chinese students coming from China. So we have to manage how to do a home isolation or a quarantine for them. And also we send out a letter of prevention strategy to all faculties and students. On the next day, the dean, the president of school held the first meeting of COVID-19 prevention strategy with all deans and vice presidents. On February 6th, there's a meeting with contact person. And this is a person who is elected in each department responsible for all the health status of the staff or the students, and try to advocate these people how to the advocate strategies. And before the new semester, on February 26th, so there's a great meeting with all directors of department of the school to advocate the current strategies. The NTU Health Center has a history of 50 years. It's run by 3 family physicians and about 20 professionals. It's basically supported by National Taiwan University Hospital in terms of facility or manpower. So it functions in general practice, also disease prevention, health checkup, and infection control. So in this pandemic, due to our experience in SARS experience, so we set up the screening station right away. And we screen those who have had travel history just by checking the IC card. And we forbid those having fever or respiratory symptoms to enter the center. And we advise all people entering the center must wear surgical mask. And we set regulations on visitors. Of course, we follow the guidelines set by the CECC and modify accordingly. So these are the general measures set by the school. We have this NTU website for disease control to update all the informations on a timely basis. And we designate the so-called contact person in each department. So at this point, we have almost 400 contact persons at school. The Office of Student Affairs are responsible for the Chinese students from mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau. They have to check their status from their passport and to decide whether they should get the home quarantine or the isolation, so forth. And Office of International Affairs to take care of international students. And the Office of Academic Affairs to launch online courses for those not being able to attend the course on site. And the personnel department to launch regulations on those being forced to do isolation or quarantine. And the Office of General Measures responsible for collecting outbreak materials such as surgical masks and alcohol and sanitizing school facilities. And we strongly encourage to cancel or postpone large-scale activities scheduled recently. As I mentioned, these are contact persons. They're very important. So what they do, they're supposed to collect NTU survey form for every faculty and students in the department, and to make sure they're okay, to understand whether there's any travel, occupation, contact, or cluster history, and manage accordingly. So anyone with a TOCC history for the past 14 days will be requested to register on NTU website for disease control. So the NTU Health Center will get to understanding of who these people are, and we will daily check those in isolation and quarantine by telephone for 14 days and ask the contact person to return the form. And the Student Counseling Center will help students with psychological stress caused by either isolation or quarantine. And this is the form, the survey form in Chinese and in English. And basically, it listed all the questions about the students and their health status, and also their travel history or TOCC history. Apology for this being Chinese, but this is a very important regulation strategy. It stratify people in risk by 3 levels. So basically for those who have contact history with the case will be isolated. So about the isolation policy, it's about 14 days, stay home and cannot go outside and cannot take public transportation. And the health administration will monitor the person for 14 days and to ask to check the temperatures and so forth. And if you're coming back from China, Hong Kong, Macau, South Korea, or Italy, or Iran, you have to be quarantined. And for the quarantine, it's basically the same thing. You have to stay home for 14 days without going anywhere. Okay, and basically this applies to the school because we have a lot of students coming back from these areas. And if you're coming back from less risky places such as Singapore or Japan, and you have to do the self-care management, which is that yes, you can go outside and do whatever you want, but you have to wear mask and you have to monitor your temperature for 14 days. Okay, and from the beginning of this week, because we start the school, we start to check the temperatures. And outside the classrooms and sports centers and main library, student dining halls and other crowded buildings. And also all visitors are required to register upon entry and body temperature will be measured. And basically, the libraries and museums are available only for faculty and students. And what about the specific measures? And we send out emails and brochures to the students and faculties. We advise them to wash their hands and don't touch their face, eyes, and nose, and so forth. And leave the window open, just keep the ventilation. And don't get into places that's very crowded and keep distance with people. And we ask them if they're having or presenting with any respiratory symptoms, we advise them to wear mask. And we advise them not to talk or share food during a dining. Okay, so I would like to conclude that quick response and central leadership and high vigilance are the measures that NTU is taking to fight this virus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chen, for an overview of the measures used on the NTU campus. We will now flip back to input from Kaohsiung Medical University, also on their management strategies on campus. Let us welcome Professor Wu and Professor Chong.
Okay, so you see the last slide from the Dr. Chen. That's the main campus of the National Taiwan University. So very similar to Harvard Square. And for Kaohsiung Medical University, it's very close to the university hospital. So our campus is very similar to the Novu medical area. So just give you the image. So I will turn my microphone to our KMU president, Professor Jong. And Professor Jong is the commander-in-chief in Kaohsiung Medical University and the hospital. And he was the superintendent in one community hospital during the 2003 SARS epidemic outbreak. So he has a well experience how to control the spread of this kind of newly emerging infectious disease. So welcome, Dr. Jong.
Hi, everyone. I am Yuh-Jyh, the president of Kaohsiung Medical University. I am honored to join this panel discussion and share about how we respond to COVID-19 infections in Kaohsiung Medical University with plants in Boston. When the first case was diagnosed in Taiwan on January 21st, the KMU and the affiliated hospital quickly mobilized and established the COVID-19 response task force.
Are there slides you need to share with us?
Yes.
Okay, now it's on screen.
Before semester start, we conduct TOCC survey among faculty and the students to identify cases at high risk and implement containment measures and educate the faculty and the students with correct prevention measures. This is our containment and tracking mechanism. We use international students as example. According to the travel health notice label of the country they come from, they have to go through different containment measurements. We provide private transfer to quarantine dormitory and prevention kit for students in quarantine. We also provide needed supply and caring. This is an example of handbook for students in quarantine. This is an example of our daily report for cases at high risk. Also, we set up a website to announce and share all information and make plan for resources allocation of epidemic prevention products. After semester begins, we implement campus access control, temperature monitor, and entry registration. Besides, the faculty and the students are required to record temperature and keep activity diary daily. Fever reporting, health monitoring, and the leave conditions relaxation are encouraged in university. We designed a university-wide desktop screen to keep reminding adherence to self-care management for students and to enhance individual prevention measures and also avoid spreading fake news. We initiate COVID-19 research to curb the outbreak, and we will show the structure later. And the most critical, always be prepared for the advanced severe condition. We take certain response plan into consideration, such as work at different locations and the minimum manpower policy. This is our research team of COVID-19. Our actions to prevent cluster infection in the practice hospitals. First, complete the online and the on-site education before internship. Second, provide the alternative courses for students if practice hospital with cluster infections. COVID-19 outbreak provides an excellent opportunity for cross-disciplinary learning. Everyone has no relevant experience. Related fields include medicine, science, education, psychology, technology, and communication, and etc. But caring and the community and the teamwork are also important for this precious learning. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you for the informative session on both National Taiwan University and Kaohsiung Medical University. We will now quickly open up to one question from the audience if there is any. If not, we have one question from the internet, and this is directed to Dr. Chen, although both schools can answer. Some medical centers may be constructed among colleges or close to colleges and even built together, like the National Taiwan University Hospital and the National Taiwan University Medical School, and other cases such as Taipei Medical University. Is there any policy separating students and teachers from medical workers or their patients?
Well, in my opinion, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In my opinion, if you're a medical student or in the medical school, it's impossible to separate yourself from the patients or medical staff, especially because your internship or your PGY years, you have to stay most of the time in the hospital. Therefore, you have to learn how to protect yourself. For example, you have to learn the policy of sanitizing yourself and like wearing masks, wearing take all the highest standard measure to protect yourself. That's the only way to do, because it's impossible to separate yourself from the hospital.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Any answers from Kaohsiung Medical University?
Sorry, may I respond? Yeah, because I think that question is I think we our associate commander, Dr. Dai, maybe can respond, because in the beginning I have said the Dongwu medical area is very similar to the Kaohsiung Medical University campus and nearby the hospital. So maybe he can quick respond.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Deng-Chyang. Dr. Dai comes from Kaohsiung Medical University. Actually, currently I'm the Secretary General of our school, and I'm a hepatologist. Initially, I treat for the HBV, HCV for this virus, but now we have to cope with this coronavirus together. Okay, I want to share some experience or our rule nowadays in Kaohsiung Medical University and the hospital. Actually, all the students, if you come to the hospital, all the medical staff come to the hospital, that means that you have some time spent in the hospital. You have to follow the rules, largely in the hospital. If you are not the hospital staff, you are just working in the school, we have to we have to follow the rules. That is for the students or the doctor and the teachers in the school. That means if you work in the hospital, actually, for example, you have to record your body temperature twice a day. And if you work in the school only, you just record your temperature, body temperature once a day. That means we can separate according to the staff or students work at that. For the medical students in the hospital, they have to follow all the rules in the hospital. That is actually to protect them. And the other ones, we just want to separate the staff working in the hospital and school. And we just want to warn that you can just help yourself. Seldom to go to the school if you work in the hospital, or seldom go into the hospital if you work in the school. By this way, I think everybody work together, we can keep the hospital safe and keep the school safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen, and all speakers from the Kaohsiung Medical University. That concludes our third session. And for the last 10 minutes of today's event, I would like to welcome several speakers who would like to make comments and closing remarks about Taiwan's role in global health. For our first person, we would like to invite Dr. Jennifer Christian, who is the co-founder, president, and chief medical officer of the Webbility Corporation, and has a long-term active leadership in the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Christian, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I was asked to speak to you because I used to work in public health in Alaska, which is a stepchild in the US, separated by 1,000 miles from the mainland of the United States, in a very different climate and with a very different geography, and often ignored because Alaska is very small. And the message that I shared with one of the preparers of this conference today was my discovery when we were there that being small and being far away, we were delighted to discover that we were performing as well as the large and much more, we thought, sophisticated public health departments in other parts of the country. And we didn't realize that that was true. We thought that we were having trouble with local politics and local egos and the remoteness of information, and we thought we were struggling and that we were second or third class. And then when we went to national conferences, we discovered that because we were left on our own, because we had to use the talent and expertise that we had available, that actually many times we had come up with solutions that were more innovative and more effective than the larger and better established programs. And I know that you are sitting very close to a very large and expert country and might be feeling somewhat isolated and alone. But from the presentations I've been hearing, it sounds like you are thinking as clearly as anyone anywhere. And that if you feel, listen carefully to yourselves and observe carefully what is actually happening, I am confident your response will be as good as that anywhere else in the world. And I think that's the main thing I have to say is being small, out of the way, different, and a stepchild may mean that you can actually outperform everyone else. That's my main message. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Any quick questions or comments from the audience? All right, thank you, Dr. Christian. For time limits, we will now move on to inviting our next speaker, Director General Douglas Yuh-Jyh, a longtime staunch supporter of all Taiwanese events and activities in Boston. Director Hsu.
Very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for the participation today. Special thanks to all the participants from the other end of the globe, from Taiwan. And I know that it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. I know it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, so I know it's wrong. But I also like to take this opportunity to express my personal appreciation to all the organizers who have put together this very wonderful meeting at this timely manner. Special thanks to Yuh-Jyh, Jong, Yi-Ting, among others. I think your support is really important. I have to say that, well, I'm really impressed at how you were able to organize so quickly, secure so many distinguished speakers, both in Taiwan, from Harvard and Taiwan. Honestly, about 2 weeks ago, when many of us get together for lunch and talk about ideas to how to pursue this year's WHO campaign, I was kind of like wondering such a kind of seminar would happen at earliest, maybe in early May. But I think you've exceeded my expectation. But it also attests the fact that the people of Taiwan are fast and efficient, especially when faced with new challenges. Additionally, no matter it's you who are here at Boston and who made time with your busy schedule to make this happen, or a speaker at Taiwan who stay up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning just because you want to share Taiwan's successful experience with everybody here. I would say that is exactly the key to Taiwan's success in combating coronavirus, which is the willingness to walk extra miles in the time of need. So thank you. But as a non-medical expert, well, I want to direct your attention to an equally important issue, which is Taiwan's inclusion in the World Health Organization. I have served in Taiwanese Foreign Service for a good number of years now, and I have personally involved or witnessed how Taiwan pursued this goal. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you Taiwan's experience in combating various viruses or disease, and how this experience can serve as a valuable asset to the World Health Organization at this critical juncture. I think it was in 1997 or 98 when there was a coronavirus outbreak in Taiwan, in which 78 of Taiwanese school kids were killed because of that disease. And it was at that point that Taiwan realized that it has to seek outside support from international organizations such as WHO to better protect our citizens. As a congressional liaison officer in Washington, D.C. at the time, so our job is to secure the support from many friends in the U.S. Congress to support Taiwan's WHO bid. And surprisingly, it took just very little effort for us to convince our counterpart at the bill about the seriousness of the situation and the need for their support. And not only did they lend their full support for Taiwan, but in the years following 1997, the U.S. Congress has passed multiple resolutions in supporting Taiwan's WHO bid. And after the outbreak of SARS in 2003, in the year of 2004, the U.S. Congress passed a bill in supporting Taiwan's bid in the World Health Organization and make this a permanent U.S. policy until Taiwan eventually become a member or become of the WHO. So based on that bill, until today, every year before April 1st, the State Department has to submit a report to the U.S. Congress, in which it needs to state what has been done in the previous year from the U.S. side to support Taiwan's WHO bid, and also mention about upcoming years or upcoming strategy they're going to do this year. So that effort surely accumulated momentum for Taiwan's eventually invited to the World Health Assembly in 2009. Well, however, due to the political reasons, as you know, Taiwan's participation was suspended in 2016. Regardless, Taiwan's advanced healthcare, biotech, medicine, among others, we all have captured the attention of countries around the world. And also, regardless, Taiwan has been successful to tackle the outbreak of SARS, the avian flu, H1N1, among others, in the past few years. Unfortunately, with the United States' commitment to help Taiwan become more visible in the world, Taiwan and the United States jointly set up a new platform called Global Cooperation and Training Framework, GCTF. It was back in 2015. It allows Taiwan to share its expertise with partners around the world and across a variety of fields, including public health, disaster relief, and good governance, among others. And Taiwan is willing and able to share its experience to benefit the global community. And of those past 22 workshops held under GCTF, 6 of them have actually focused on public health topics, such as rapid testing, rapid testing and detection of MERS, Zika virus, or enterovirus, among others. Taiwan's success in these areas has greatly benefited regional countries. In fact, there are more than 38 countries in the region and around the world which has been benefited from the GCTF in the past 5 years. So that is the reason why in the past few years, so many like-minded countries like the United States, Canada, Japan, European Union, they are willing to step up and waive their support for Taiwan's WHO bid in a very strong way. So at the outbreak of the COVID-19, Taiwan was treated very unfairly by the WHO. But in the past 2 months, WHO officials in the press conference at the United Nations of Geneva mentioned multiple times that WHO worked very closely with partners in China, Taiwan, and they have been engaging with technical colleagues on the Taiwanese side for over the whole course of this event. That's what the WHO officials has mentioned. However, the truth is, Taiwan has never been invited to any related conference or lab network. Taiwanese medical experts, yes, they can participate on the online global research and innovation forum, but as a private individual. What is even worse was that we, according to the IHR, International Health Regulation, we have submitted all the confirmed COVID-19 cases in that network, but got no responses or assistance from the WHO at all. So thanks to the past experience and all the hard work of our medical doctors and medical teams, Taiwan has been able to keep COVID-19 cases to a minimum. And I believe today is 44 cases. This illustrates the effectiveness of Taiwan's advanced medical teams, expertise, and experience, which can contribute to help other countries fight this and future viruses. So let's face it, we are all in this together as virus leader, respect politics or borders. So over the years, Taiwan has transformed from a recipient to a contributor of medical aid. In the past, our WHO campaigns message have also evolved from Taiwan needs help to Taiwan can help. And today, I will go even further by adding Taiwan wants to have, especially during the outbreak of COVID-19. So not only is it unfair to exclude Taiwan from the WHO, it's also unwise to do so, because in fact it puts the entire global community at risk. Taiwan has always been and remains committed to being a responsible stakeholder in the international community. Taiwan is not looking to take advantage of current situation, but we want to contribute to the world health. We want the world to take a closer look at Taiwan's success in the fight against COVID-19 and other viruses that should benefit from our experiences. So in closing, it has been said by Phil Jackson, the strength of the team is each individual member. And the strength of each member is the team. So let's all work together for the benefit, health, and well-being of our global team and make the world safe, healthy for all, including Taiwan. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. We now have one video and another speaker. We have a video from the Massachusetts State Representative, Stephen Mallett, which we will now show on the big screen.
Three, two, one. Hello, I'm Massachusetts State Representative Stephen Howe. I'm here today to talk to you about the World Health Organization. Taiwan, which is a close friend of the United States, unfortunately isn't part of the World Health Organization. Given the fact of their proximity and the fact that they are a sovereign nation, I believe that the World Health Organization should recognize Taiwan for everything they do. They have technical advances in the medical field and in cybersecurity, and they would be an asset to the World Health Organization. Thank you.
And now let us welcome our final speaker, our special guest here today, Congressman Joe Kennedy's office representative, Tyler Albert Swan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
It's quite busy. However, I wanted to point out some points today as well. Some of you may already know that Congressman around January budget in East Boston regarding COVID-19. This is something that a quick rapid response and giving up front of this is very important. You mentioned multilateral collaboration across sectors and teamwork. And that's very, very important. I think you expressed some of Taiwan's potential here today. A potential pandemic requires international cooperation, and we are grateful for Taiwan's efforts in partnership. Please continue to keep our office informed on anything that we can do to potentially be of assistance. In times of uncertainty, being proactive is very important, and I really demonstrated that here today. So, without further ado, I just want to thank you again for inviting us here, and let's work together to defeat COVID.
We would also like to acknowledge a special guest here today from Taiwan Yuh-Jyh. Thank you for joining us and for supporting and sponsoring our event. Thank you to all the panelists and speakers still online. Thank you for staying up so late and to participate in this cross-continental dialogue with the people in Boston here today. And I would also like to thank all attendees, both in person here and online. And as mentioned at the very beginning of this event, we hope that this event is the start of a long-term conversation in which we hope to send out a clear message of Taiwan's willingness to collaborate on the global health stage. If people check online these few couple of days, you may have noticed that many governmental agencies in Taiwan have switched their profile pictures to Health for All and Taiwan Can Help. Health for All is, after all, the bedrock upon which all foundations of principles and the World Health Organization itself is built. And I hope that today's event has convinced everyone that Taiwan does indeed can help. If anyone here in attendance or online is interested in joining and helping us start and facilitate this kind of a conversation, please feel free to reach out to any of the co-host organizers or event staff here today, and we can think about how we might be able to further this conversation for future discussion and questions. Thank you so much for all your attending, and that concludes our event.